Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, it's the day after our big Thanksgiving dinner here yesterday. It was a long, good day. I think we got to the meeting place around 7 in the morning, 7:30, something like that, and didn't get out of there till about 8:30 last night. Good long day, but my goodness, there was so much amazing fellowshipping going on. There was, a lot of people there that have been with us for a long time. Was at last year's and many other events, and including all the new people too. But they all were telling me so many people yesterday were telling me it was about the best Thanksgiving kind of big dinner family get together they've ever had. It was just amazing, and I was so excited to be there. And my goodness, the amount of food. I think we fed around 130 people. Sent a bunch of families home with leftovers because we could have fed at least twice as many, if not more. So we sent food home with a lot of the families, people that needed it more than others. Even had a chicken bucket. You can't have a homesteader kind of dinner without having a chicken bucket. So we had a chicken bucket for, all the scraps and leftover stuff so that people could take home to their chickens. We didn't want anything to go to waste. There's some really good food yesterday. Anyways, a lot of stuff's going on in the world. And I just wanted to share a little bit of that with you because maybe you've missed a few things. There has been a new variant of the old swine flu that has popped up in United Kingdom, and apparently someone has gotten it, and they're kind of concerned with it. Some new variant. I don't know, but well, that kind of sounds like that may not be a good deal. The World Health Organization is encouraging China to re-implement their social distancing, mask mandates, and all that kind of stuff. So it's at least getting to that point there with that strange unknown pneumonia that's spreading through China. I guess the question is it going to spread everywhere else also, and we're going to see a, COVID 2.0 kind of thing happen? Who knows? Moscow, Russia, has been getting hit pretty heavily in the last few days from drone attacks from over in Ukraine, which, maybe I'm too much of a pessimist, but it seems like a pretty long distance and a lot of technology and accuracy just for the Ukrainians to do that, when most reports show that Ukraine is really struggling just to stay afloat when it comes to the war that's going on over there. So I would guess, not trying to spread any conspiracies, but I would guess that they're probably getting outside help with the ability of being able to make such attacks that deep into Russian territory. So the Russians seem to be at least somewhat concerned. They're pulling air defense systems out of other parts of Russia, moving them to Moscow. So it's interesting. There's been a lot of whispers that the war there is just about to wrap up, and that Ukraine might just need to accept defeat in this, and so will NATO. NATO is already talking about, they're having a meeting this month to talk about the progress and the path for Ukraine to become part of NATO. So it tells me, if that's the case, that this conflict with Russia and Ukraine is probably not anywhere close to being over. There may be a reprieve for a while, but I doubt that that's gonna be over. These sanctuary cities that we've heard so many years about, that we just think is ridiculous. These cities that just welcome any kind of illegal into their city. Most of them, well, all of them are very liberally run cities. They now have a problem. Winter's coming on, and some of these cities are up north, like Chicago and New York, and it gets quite cold in the wintertime. And now they have thousands and thousands of illegals there, and they have no place to put them. And so they're scrambling around trying to figure out how to house all of these illegals in New York and Chicago and a few other cities. At Chicago, they are recommending building neighborhoods of these little tiny houses, 80 square foot houses. That's like an 8-foot by 10-foot. That's smaller than most people's bedrooms. It's smaller than most of the small bedrooms in your home. And they're talking about an 80 square foot tiny home to start housing these illegals. What's interesting is, and really laughable, but they're saying that they could house up to 6 people in the 80 square foot tiny home. That's a little crazy. Probably the biggest news that I saw that's interesting, it's back into the banking stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's not getting a lot of prominence in the news. You know, the stuff with Israel and Gaza and other things are kind of taking precedence on the news cycles. But the banking stuff is looking pretty serious. HSBC, which is one of the biggest banks in the world, they've been struggling, been having a lot of problems technologically with, you know, their deposits not working and people not being able to withdraw. And now there's a problem with a several billion-dollar loss that they maybe be looking at. And if that happens, there could be some major shutdowns, which is already happening throughout the whole banking industry. In fact, it came out in the news today that there are 62, I believe, 62 branches of banks that have filed to shut down. Now, this isn't the whole bank. You know, if it's part of Chase Bank. Chase Bank isn't shutting down, but they may be shutting down several of their branches, which is showing a slowdown. The banking industry and Wall Street and the whole financial industry has been laying off tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of employees. And then we've been watching very quietly bank branches shut down. This is not good. If the economy is going strong and great and everything's doing swell, you don't see banks shut down. You usually see banks expand. And with the rapidness of banks being shut down, either whole banks or just the branches, is not a good sign. It's also a sign not just of the economy not doing well, but the push towards consolidation. That is something that has been talked about quite a bit, the consolidation of banks down to just a few. Of course, if that happens, it's going to make central bank digital currencies and a global currency much more likely to happen, because you don't have various banks trying to do various different things. You only have a few banks that are working in unison with each other. And these typically are the banks that kind of run the Federal Reserve anyways, the top 5 or 6 banks in the United States. This is a very serious looming threat that we face. Yes, there's lots of other threats going on, and that's just par for the course when you're in the midst of a collapse. That's what we are. You know, when things are collapsing, when society's breaking down, it typically isn't just one area that starts to fall apart. It's all areas, and that's really been the biggest overwhelming factor in all this, is that there's so many various things happening at once. And the banking is definitely a big one. I mean, like it or not, the whole world kind of runs on the banks, and they are a major controlling factor in everything. And when we're seeing these banks crumble and fall left and right, losing money, the Federal Reserve is trying, I guess you could say, to keep things going, at least to a point. With the reverse repo, which is basically a quiet way for the Fed to bail out banks. You know, they're funneling money into the banks to keep them afloat. And like I said, we're watching several branches break down. This right here, you know, we can listen if you want to, all the, you know, prognosticators and politicians and everything else talk about how, oh, the economy's so great. It's not really that bad. It's the strongest economy in history and all this kind of just garbage. But just look at the numbers and look at the trends. And we're watching the economy screech to a halt. You know, the United States economy is such a monstrosity of a thing. It's unlikely things would just come to a halt overnight. And we've watched for 3 years now, you know, shutting down the economy and bailing things out and spending and printing money like a bunch of drunken fools. And we're seeing the results of all of it. And you know, at some point you're going to have to, you know, pay the piper. And I think that's where we're getting to. Of course, this is just, like I said, kicking the doors open for digital currency, which is, got to be one of the end all kind of things. You know, once digital currency is fully in effect and implemented, that's kind of, you know, the end game kind of thing there. And at that point, you're either going to be completely consumed by the beast system, or you're going to be an outlaw. I don't know that there's much any other way about it. You're either going to be an outlaw, or you're just going to be completely part of the system. And once you're in, you're probably not going to get out. You know, this is not that far away. They're pushing for it pretty hot and heavy now. Pretty much the entire world is pushing for central bank digital currency. I've said this before. When you see all of the the division and the hostilities that's all around the world, you know, we talk about this all the time, the wars and rumors of wars, they're all over the place. And yet nearly every single country on this planet is in unison and agreement on one thing, and that's digital currency. They all agree to do that. Now, some of them may want to be in a more prominent position, but every one of them absolutely is agreeing on the push towards digital currency. That's got to tell you something, folks. And once that happens, it's a pretty bad, serious day. They will have, for the most part, absolute control over what you do. And this, if there's no other reason out there, this is certainly a big reason to becoming prepared and especially self-sufficient. That's not going to fix everything. I get it. I know there's, you know, well, what about taxes and property taxes and all? I get it. We'll have to figure out things as we go along. But one of the things that you can certainly do right now is become as self-sufficient as possible, getting to the point that you just don't need the system, you know, need it less and less. They're going to try to control you with the food. They're already doing it. They're already putting all the garbage and everything into food so that it can have its own way of controlling you. We've got to get to where we don't need them. We don't need them for their foods, for their medical, for what their energy, all this kind of stuff. Those are some big steps, and it's not easy to get there. And I mean, not really any of us in our group are completely there yet, but we're moving there as fast as we can. And that's what you guys need to be doing. You need to be pushing towards just not needing this system. The less you need it, the less it's going to be able to control you. And control you is exactly what it's going to do. Absolutely, completely. If you don't believe me, look at China. Look at how much the people there are absolutely controlled. I was watching a video a while back. Someone was trying to buy something out of a vending machine in China. And the price was based on their social credit scores and all this kind of stuff. I mean, a vending machine, buying a soda out of a vending machine. It'll get to that point, folks. And if you're not prepared, you may just be completely lost. You need to get your houses in order and start becoming as self-sufficient as you can. This needs to be a high priority. Don't get distracted too much with everything else going on in the world. We need to get on our own 2 feet and cut the umbilical cord. You need to be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.